Harold Davis, Acting CEO, Jamaica Business Development Corporation. With us also is Mrs. Terry Ann Thomas Gale, the Acting Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. And there's some other members of the ministry team of both Ministry of Education and also the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. There are also members of the private sector who are here and also of the MSME sector. And I want to welcome you to our post-cabinet press briefing. Students from the University of Technology and UWI are also here, and I welcome you to being a part of this. And I always say anyone is welcome to our post-cabinet press briefing. I have to acknowledge our lovely members of the media and the team from GIS and OPM who are with us every week, all the other specially invited guests who I may not have said, and our Jamaicans watching at home and abroad. Good morning again to you all. And so this morning we're going to be having the Honorable Favor Williams speak first, and then we will have Senator the Honorable Aubin Hill do his presentation. But as always, I'll just give you a few highlights in relation to what we discussed at Cabinet and also what has been happening and the work that we are doing across the country. So in terms of road rehabilitation, I think the topic of discussion for every Jamaican is really around roads. You ask how you're doing, the traffic or something else. So it's an area that's of tremendous interest to all Jamaicans. And we are obviously seized of that, and we're working really hard in relation to fixing our roads. Work has officially begun, as you all know, under the $45 billion Spark program and the $2 billion REACH program. And I know many of you have seen crews working across the country since the rain stopped in late December. And this patching work, the patching work under REACH, will be continuing. And I know I've heard many people speak with such excitement when they see a road fix that had potholes. But as you all remember and will recall, we had Hurricane Beryl in July that brought a lot of rain. And then since then, we have just been inundated with rain. And it's unprecedented. And our roadways, the Prime Minister has spent a lot of time speaking to the infrastructure. The infrastructure was never made to be able to withstand what we're seeing in terms of climate change, the extreme heat, and then all of the rains that we saw. And so, of course, the roads are under quite a lot of stress, and we are doing our best to fix them. So Spark, which is the big one, which is focused on comprehensive work on citizen-selected roads, complemented by the REACH patching work that's happening, could not have come at a better time. And these initiatives are addressing critical roadways across all parishes, ensuring safer and more efficient travel for all Jamaicans. And if you go on the Spark website, you will see the roads that are being fixed, and I encourage all Jamaicans to go there. There are many roads across Kingston and St. Andrew under Spark that are being looked at, also across St. Catherine. Maypen to Hayes, that's one area, one roadway that we're fixing. Freetown to Alley, Pennants to Frankfield, Danks to Crofts Hill, and I heard that Danks to Crofts Hill, that started this morning. So we're very happy about that. Spalding to Cave Valley, Maypen to Southsop Turn, Maypen to Porus, James Hill Road, Spanish Town Road, Mannings Hill Road, Malines Road, Mountain View Avenue, East Kings House Road, and the list continues. So please go on the website sparkjamaica.gov.jm to learn more about all the roads where we're doing major work across the country. Another thing I want to point out is in relation to water and how important water is for Jamaicans. And as a government that truly cares, we put in place policies and measures that relate to what the public cares about. And water is one of those. So there's roads and then there's water. In terms of water, one thing I wanted to note, again, for all Jamaicans, is the National Water Commission's 3-month amnesty for customers. That commenced on January 2, 2025. So a few days ago it started, and under the amnesty, I remind you that pensioners who are assessed as being in need will have their debt written off completely. That's your pensioners. A lot of our older Jamaicans who have worked really, really hard throughout their lives and maybe struggling at this stage, we do not believe that they should not have water. And so pensioners who have outstanding amounts and you are deemed in need of support based on the PATH beneficiary standards, you will have your debt written off and any reconnection fees waived. We are a government that cares, and that's what you do when you care about people. In addition to that, we know a lot of some of our older pensioners have land and they may want to be able to transfer titles, and these bills have been in their way. And so we know that this will facilitate them doing transfers of titles also, and also for them to reconnect their water supply legally. In addition to that, if you're not an elderly pensioner, you're still someone who can benefit from that, because we understand how important water is. So any NWC customer who's been disconnected for longer than 6 months and who contact the company and make a payment arrangement will have their debt discounted by 50%. And it could be more based on a needs assessment. And those individuals who come in and say, we need some time and we need a payment plan, they will be allowed up to 1 year to repay. So this, again, is our government looking at the issues and providing solutions. And we understand the...
All right, so listen up. State Farm was trying to charge me $197 for car insurance. No, thank you. I got a friend who told me about this website. And now I'm spending $58 a month. Full coverage. That's saving $139. It's amazing. All you do, you just go to the site, you put in some basic information, and you get all these options that show up. People start saving right away. All you got to do is just go check it out. It's that simple. The link's below.
Students with ADHD save 10 hours studying with this Chrome extension.
But no, by all means, go ahead, skip the ad. Save a few seconds.
I have to do a lot of reading for my job, emails, reports, write-ups, but sometimes reading can get really, really tiring. To stay focused, I use a free Chrome extension called Speechify. All I do is highlight the text, right-click, and then Speechify reads.
The surrounding areas was officially commissioned into service by Prime Minister Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness on Tuesday, January 7. And this project started in 2023 and involved the replacement of 8.6 kilometers of aging cast iron pipelines with the state-of-the-art 300 millimeter high-density polyethylene pipes, which will provide a more reliable and continuous potable water supply while minimizing environmental impact. The good thing about this Port Royal project is that it benefits approximately 2,000 residents that will have greater access to water. And also it will benefit, obviously, our local businesses. And as Port Royal becomes more important as a cruise shipping port, it will also benefit those cruise ship passengers also. So that's another one. And there are many other water projects. And I know Minister Samuda will be coming to speak about a lot more of the water projects that we have. In terms of tourism, last year, Jamaica earned $4.3 billion. That was really very impressive, with 4.3 million visitors to the country. And that is something that we should celebrate. And I know in the coming weeks, we will have the Minister of Tourism who will be here with us at post-cabinet press briefing to discuss more of what's happening in tourism. And so I have a lot more updates because there's a lot more going on. The government is working. We're not stopping. We're continuing to do the work that is necessary to deal with all of the issues that the citizens of Jamaica have identified, and that work never stops, even through the holiday. And I know the two ministers were working straight through the holiday to ensure that things were getting done. And that's our commitment to you. We will not stop. We will continue. We are a caring government, and we will do the things that you care about. And so our first guest this morning is the Honorable Favour Williams, our esteemed Minister of Finance and the Public Service. Please welcome her.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Let me acknowledge colleague ministers, Minister Dana Dixon from the beloved Ministry of Education, Youth, Skills and Information. And of course, we have here as well, colleague Minister um, from the Ministry of Investment and Commerce, and his team, led by his PS Benny Templar. I have with me this morning Mary's Horton from the TAJ. If there are any questions with regards to any tax issues, let me acknowledge the members of the private sector, students, the media, and to say again, a very good morning. Yesterday, I took to the Parliament the Income Tax Amendment Act 2025 to codify the revenue measures that were announced in the March 2024-25 budget. You will note that with strong macroeconomic fundamentals, this government was able to introduce measures aimed at facilitating trade, reducing administrative inefficiencies, and offsetting the loss in purchasing power to Jamaican citizens because of global inflationary pressure. Of significance, this administration has been able to create some fiscal space as a result of the progress that this government has made in improving the general macroeconomic conditions and reducing the country's debt. With the available space created and in keeping with the overarching policy agenda, the revenue measures introduced for fiscal year 2024-25 by Ministry Paper number 11/24, dated March 12, 2024, aimed to do the following: provide assistance for low-income earners and vulnerable groups, such as pensioners. These efforts ensured that the most affected population received targeted assistance, reinforcing social equity. It also provided support for companies offering trust and corporate services, further improved productivity by stimulating investments in renewable energy, and it gave effect to the increase in the market capitalization of new companies listing on the junior market, and amend the Income Tax Act to recognize the increase in the threshold for pensioners and PAYE persons. By creating an enabling fiscal environment through these measures, this government is working to strengthen Jamaica's economic framework while addressing social and environmental challenges. This balanced approach underscores this government's commitment to fostering economic growth, reducing inequity, and building a more sustainable future. So I'll start with the trust and corporate services. The following measures were introduced as part of this fiscal year's budget presentation. Well, a 25% income tax rate for companies providing trust and/or corporate services that are not engaged in other activities, even though these trust and corporate services companies are regulated entities. So codifying the income tax for this class of companies reduces the ambiguity that has existed in the industry, and it dispels the anxiety among the players, given that these are regulated companies regulated by the FSC, and normally regulated companies are taxed at 33.33%, but this class of companies, their corporate income tax rate is stated and in short order will be codified in law at 25% rate. In this budget year in which we are in as well, we also announced a reduction of the corporate income tax rate for independent power producers who are producing 75% or more of their energy from wind and/or solar. The income tax rate would be reduced from 33.33% to 25%. And you will note that this government has been reducing taxes, not increasing them. Additional budget measures that the amendments that I took to Parliament yesterday will codify into law are the increases in the age and pension exemptions from $80,000 each to $250,040 each. It will also codify the increase in the annual personal income tax threshold from $1,500,096 to $1,700,088. And additionally, and the one that I like to talk about the most, is the increase in the maximum participating voting share capital for the junior stock exchange from $500 million to $750 million. Yes. Thank you. So with regard, just to get into a little bit more detail, the International Corporate and Trust Providers Act 2017 was amended in 2021 to change the name of the act and expand the scope of the legislation to be generally applicable to both international and domestic trust and corporate service providers. The amendments to the act were in keeping with Jamaica's overall thrust to improve its anti-money laundering and counter-financing of terrorism, AML-CFT framework based on the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, CFATF, Mutual Evaluation Report on Jamaica in 2017, and allowed for an improvement in the regulatory requirements for providers of trust and corporate services. So as you know, trust and corporate services include services such as financial planning, tax preparation, consulting, legal services, company incorporations, and so on. So these companies were subjected to a 33 1/3% corporate income tax rate. The rate that will apply now is 25% for the providers of these services. So again, of note, this government is reducing taxes, not proposing to increase taxes. In terms of independent power producers, to facilitate further investments in renewable energy, this is being proposed to conditionally exclude the independent power producers, or IPPs, from the definition of regulated companies, another group that will see the reduction in their corporate income tax rate from 33 1/3% to 25%, as long as they produce 75% or more of their energy from renewable sources such as wind and or solar. These companies, as you know, are regulated by the Office of the Utilities Regulation. And hence they are a regulated company that should be subject to the 33 1/3%, but given their importance to the industry, their corporate income tax rate is reduced to 25%. So we want to promote the growth of the renewable energy sector, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and then enhance energy independence. And it is intended as well to give investors more confidence in the sector, enable access to more capital that can help finance investments in renewable energy technologies. And ultimately, we expect that this will lead to further economic growth and development. And here again, I have to stress, we are reducing taxes, not increasing taxes. I know as well that the annual pension exemption and age relief exemption, which was announced during the budget year, again, this was included in the legislation that I took to Parliament yesterday to ensure the codification in law. So the Income Tax Act is being amended to increase both the annual pension exemption and the annual age relief exemption from $80,000 to $250,040 each. This will result in an additional 2,046 taxpayers falling outside of the tax net and hence having more disposable income. And this took effect last April 2024. But again, we're following up to ensure that we fully close the loop and ensure the laws are in place. Of note, again, this government is reducing taxes, not increasing taxes. Persons eligible for the pension exemption are those in receipt of payment from a statutory pension scheme or an approved superannuation fund. And for pensioners under the age of 55, the pension allowance is restricted to their pension income only. Additionally, individuals aged 65 and over are entitled to receive an age exemption that has been as well increased from $80,000 to $250,040 with effect as of April 1 of last year. And of course, you know about the annual personal income tax threshold. If you will recall, this government had increased the annual personal income tax threshold from $1,272,000 to $1,500,096 effective April 1, 2017. That was dubbed the 1.5. For the financial year 2024-25, effective last April 1, 2024, the annual personal income tax threshold was increased from $1,500,096 to $1,700,088 for all individuals, whether employed, that is, you're subject to pay as you earn, or self-employed. With the increase in the income tax threshold taking effect last year, this gave rise to an effective annual threshold for the calendar year 2024 of $1,650,090. Individuals who receive a pension and are over age 65, they're age 65 and over, they would be entitled to both pension and age exemptions, as well as the benefit from the increased income tax threshold. And I'm looking at Maris and she's shaking her head because that is true. And we do have a slide there. And you will note that for this group of persons, their income tax threshold is even higher than that of the general population because of these additional exemptions that they've gotten, which is, due to their age. And for them, the income tax threshold totaled $2,065,150 for 2024, the calendar year. And for this calendar year, 2025, that moves to $2,200,168 there. So as just to echo what colleague Dana Dixon said, we are a caring government. We are a government that understands that we have to create opportunities for our citizens and continue to look for ways to provide assistance to them. And finally, in terms of the increase in the maximum participating voting share equity capital for companies listed on the Junior Stock Exchange, you will note that we will be increasing the current cap for new companies wishing to participate in the Junior Stock Exchange. Currently, that is set at $500 million, and that will be moved to $750 million. Of significance, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises listed on the Junior Stock Exchange do benefit currently from a range of tax incentives, such as conditional relief from income tax payments, in addition to exemption from transfer tax and stamp duty on transfer of shares over the exchange. This government is committed to facilitating further growth of the MSME sector. And so this amendment to the Income Tax Act that I took to Parliament yesterday is a means of the support. We believe that this will positively impact the MSME sector, as it will broaden the scope for more MSMEs to benefit from the suite of incentives afforded. Further, the increase will provide room for these companies to raise capital and improve productivity. This policy is in recognition of the pivotal role that MSMEs play in driving economic growth while promoting and encouraging local entrepreneurship. But let me hasten to add that companies on the main stock exchange cannot and will not be able to move to the junior stock exchange because of this increase in the capitalization. So the policy is applicable only for new entrants to the stock exchange. And just to add, the junior market has been a phenomenal success, with 48 companies listed to date and a market capitalization of $148.5 billion at the end of December 2024, having started with a market capitalization of $785 million in 2009, when the Jamaica Labour Party government of the day brought the junior market into effect. The companies on the exchange, on the junior market exchange, span many industries and sectors: manufacturing and distribution, retail, service sector, insurance, leisure, technology, and of course, the education sector. And the companies listed on the junior market have some 72,350 shareholders, many of whom are ordinary Jamaicans. I am proud to note that 2 companies have since migrated to the main market, meaning they've outgrown the junior market. And that's the progression that we want to see. We want to enable smaller companies to come on, to grow and expand, improve their market capitalization, and then migrate to the more mature market. And I also want to say that despite the ups and downs in the market, in the junior market, standing at the end of December 2024, the junior market has delivered an average annual gain of 22% over its 19 years history. And that is to be applauded. And yes, thank you. Let us not forget, and I'm always going to keep reminding Jamaicans, that in October of 2013, the then finance minister, Dr. Peter Phillips, announced in the parliament that the junior market will come to an end December 21, 2021, that it will be no more. The government would no longer support, because once you change the tax regime for the market, that will be it. It would just die. Well, administrations changed, and this JLP administration that gave birth to the junior market is here again to expand the junior market by raising the limit on the voting share equity capital from 500 million to 750 million. And we expect to see more companies list, because we know that a big benefit of stock markets is the ability of individuals to become shareholders of companies that they would not otherwise have the opportunity to do. And again, we believe in broadening markets and increasing opportunities for all Jamaicans. And we view the junior market as a significant accomplishment, not only for this administration, but the country, Jamaica as a whole. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Minister. Naomi, I'm going to turn over to you for the questions from the media.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year to you. We do have a very, very full house this morning, and members of our media fraternity are to our right at the back. So let's start off with our fair lady, Kalisha from TVJ.
Good morning, everyone. Kalisha Williams, Television Jamaica. Minister Williams, since taking office, have you seen where, or are there plans to increase the income tax threshold to, say, perhaps $2 million?
I know that has been a question on the lips and in the minds of Jamaicans. We are just ending this fiscal year. We're in the period during which all things will be considered, and I think it would be too early to opine on that, though.
Thank you, Minister. Any other questions from members of the media here? All right, Minister, they want to give you a nice fair pass to start 2025 off. All right.
No, I think they're all very impressed by everything she said. And also, they're going to be putting a lot of these stories in the news out because it was really good things. And I thought it was really a great way we coordinated things today because the Minister of Finance spoke about the MSME sector quite a bit.
Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Think you don't have time for an accounting degree? Think WG.
A lot of what was being said was about small businesses and our commitment to small businesses in Jamaica. And that line is going to continue with the business minister. Sorry. Oh, yes. And the new president of the MSME Alliance is here. I didn't see it on the list. I'm sorry. And so it's good to have them represented here and for them to show up for post-cabinet press briefing says a lot. It says that they are very much busy lobbying the government for the interests of the small business sector. And that is the right thing to do. And that we're also delivering. And I'm sure there's more that they would like us to do. And we're here to listen. And so I'm very, very glad that you're all here this morning to hear the business minister do his presentation this morning. And so it's my honor to invite Senator, the Honorable Auburn Hill, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, the business minister, to address you this morning.
Thank you very much. Give her a round of applause, man. She does that every morning and does it so well on Wednesdays. Thank you, Minister. Morris Dixon, Minister Dana, we like to call her. Thank you all for coming this morning. I'm going to use a number of slides to make my presentation. But before I do that, of course, the people who make the ministry work, and I understand working better than it used to be. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for me to be there. It's not getting better every day. It's not working well. So the PS, or Permanent Secretary, Mr. Sansa Bennett Templar, I see, or the man who is really in charge of MSME now, Mr. Davis, but I hear him as being advertised in all kinds of stations as a major musician. So, Harry, good to see you this morning. He's the head of JBDC, acting at the moment. Mr. Shulett Cox, who just returned from India. Shulett went to India to be a part of a group of diaspora Indian women or of Indian extraction from around the world. Shulett was on a very big stage. Right beside her was Dr. Jai Shankar, who is the foreign minister and really an outstanding Indian himself. So she represented Jamaica well there. Welcome back. Dr. Blake, who runs the trade board, Dr. Hugh Blake, Kelly Dawn Hamilton, who runs the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority, and I see Roxanne from my office and the Chief Technical Director. So, in early 2022, when I became Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, 2 or 3 months after I was there, I got to see the trade figures. I'm going to talk about those, show you how MSME fits into it, and how we have a lot of work to do, but we can do it. Why can we do it? Because you will remember in 2012, 2013, the only thing economists would write about Jamaica is that we're a basket case. They love to use that term. No matter how much time Baldwin and Shelley-Ann Wynne and all the rest of us did what we had to do, we're a basket case because frankly, for 40, 50 years, our economic management was despicable. We announced debt as if we had achieved something. A new debt would be negotiated, and there's a big announcement. Well, truth is, Dr. Phillips carried the band, and I always make the comment that while he was warned of bitter medicine, didn't seem to believe it. When he went to Washington, he had to suffer through it. When he came back, the cabinet conference room for the prime minister is longer than this room. I suspect, I wasn't in there, I suspect that Dr. Phillips was at one end and everybody else crowded up down the other end because they never want to have anything to do with that program. Well, carried it. They didn't have a long time to do it, but we took it on. And every time we used to meet, I used to chair the then leader of the opposition, now Prime Minister Holness's advisory board, economic advisory board. Minister Williams was there with me. We were both together. And every time the UN came, are you going to keep the commitment? Under that commitment, ad nauseum, we'd answer. And I remember the first meeting that the Prime Minister held after he was given the order and given the protocol to become Prime Minister by the GG was with the IMF. We stayed the course. Your Minister Williams, who is a really wonderful lady and humble, sort of like me, she's very humble about what happened to that junior stock exchange. When Dr. Phillips came back, he made the announcement. Audley Shaw went ballistic. I went to the newspaper. I was writing for the Gleaner then. She was writing. We said we made it absolutely clear. We will not accept that. It's the only thing that Dr. Phillips brought back that we didn't accept. We said, no, we're not doing it. Prime Minister Holness, then leader of the opposition, about this time in 2016, went to the stock exchange and said, we will continue to keep it, but better yet, we're going to expand it. And she has just expanded it again. So if you're looking to start a business, so I always love to see you here, Mr. Wignall. If you're looking to start a business, you're not going to get tax exemption on only 500, a company that has 500 million in an equity position. We're now raised it to 750 million. So please get your tax advisor, talk to Mr. Wignall, talk to us at the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, the tax people at the Ministry of Finance. We'll explain what most of the people on the stock exchange and going there, they know what they're doing. Even if you're new, so it's a benefit and a stock exchange. But what then made me look so deeply at how do we get growth? PS was there. That's the first number that blew my mind. When I saw that number, we imported in 2023, 2022 actually, those numbers were, I think, in 2021 it says there, the imports in 2021 were $5,970,852 US dollars, not Jamaican dollars. We exported a mere $1,480,710 for a whopping deficit of 4.9 plus billion US dollars. When I saw that, I said, this is a recipe not to get rich. So I asked my researchers, good researchers, Mr. Hyatt led those researchers. I see another doctor here. We have lots of doctors in our ministry. Dr. Riley's around there from the Hazardous Substance Regulatory Authority, HSRA. And so I asked the researchers, I said, give me the numbers from 1960. I actually asked for 1960. But I'm going to tell you about the 62 years of independence. We've had 62 years of independence, and we have had 1 year of a positive trade balance. 1 dege year. 61 of those years have been really negative trade balance every single year except for 1966, which was one of the last years when sugar made sense and bauxite was good. That's where we were. Now, yes, we have grabbed debt to GDP around its neck and manage it. So we can manage stuff. One of the best caring things any government in the world can do is provide jobs for its people. We have dropped our unemployment figures from 13 or 14% when we took charge of government in 2016 to 3.6. Now that is built more police stations and better police stations. Yes, better health centers. We're improving the schools. Minister Williams was there. Minister Morris Dixon is now there. We're spending, she has, Minister Morris Dixon, one of the tallest people in the cabinet, has the biggest budget ever. $163 billion of Jamaican taxpayers' money go to the Ministry of Education. I'm sure she comes from the private sector. She's going to find more ways to get a lot more benefits out of that $163 billion. Because we have to. So this is a caring government, and yes, the way we know that we can do, we're going to do better stuff because we have done it over the last 9 years. Now, the outgoing president of the managing director, she's called, of the IMF, French lady, remember her? Mrs. Lagarde, who came here. Georgina came here as well, the subsequent one. Both of them said that, no, Jamaica is the poster child for the IMF. But you know something? It's an accolade I, as a Jamaican, want only once. Because it means they only would give us that accolade and tell every world about it because we were a basket case and we're not going back there. So how are we going to keep out of it? We're going to make sure that we change that figure there. The Canadians are not going to do it for us. The Americans not going to do it. The Chinese not going to do it. The British not going to do it. Not even our friends in Trinidad and Tobago are going to do it. It's us Jamaicans who will have to change that figure. It's not going to take 6 months. I see some foolish people writing about what have you done to change the export. You have 61 years of being negative and you want to change in a year? Are you joking? Where's the head? So when I presented to Cabinet and in October, I said, look, this is not a 6 months job. It's not even a 6 years job. It's going to take time. But you have to work on it every single day to make that time shorter as much as we can. So we're looking at that. We're going to have to make sure we change that. But there are other things that struck me as I looked at the numbers and why we had to set a clear export policy. Look at those numbers. On your left, you see Bermuda. In 2023, you can look from the top, 2018, 2023, their per capita GDP is $125,000 US. That's better than the US and Singapore. US and Singapore in the $80,000 region. Believe it. Bahamas is 36,000. Turks and Caicos, they don't even have a lot of rockstone like we have. We'll see where they are. 30,000. Barbados, 23,000. I'm going to go to Trinidad and Tobago, which is 20,000. I am leaving Guyana because Guyana is the outlier. Notice the long arrow. Guyana 2 years ago were less than us. Coming to us in a minute. They're now 20,000 because of the 11 billion declared barrels of oil that they've found. See where they're going? Guyana is going to be very close to Bermuda in a very short period of time because they have only 780,000 people. So they're going to make sure they're going to fly past Bermuda, I think, in a very short period of time. So Guyana, leave Guyana out. But look where Jamaica is. We are Jamaicans. 6,829,000. That's not where we must stay. Harry, we have to get MSME and other companies to do it. P.S. Choulette, Dr. Blake, Kelly Dawn, Dr. Riley, we must get big companies to understand that they have to produce new products and new services for export. We have only 3 million people. We have a per capita GDP, as you can see there, one of the lowest in the Caribbean. In CARICOM for sure. 6,800. You cannot get rich selling to only 3 million, less than 3 million people with a per capita GDP of less than $7,000. So Jamaicans, we're going to have to find markets overseas. These were the numbers that made me, with the PS and my agency head, devise a policy. And Harold will tell you, Harold wasn't running the agency then, but every single quarter when we met, the position was we are going to have to export a lot more exponentially. We are going to have to make sure we go to businesses and help them to find ways to export. We're going to have to create products to make sure we help them to do that. And I am sure, I know we're doing it because we all want to make sure Jamaica becomes a richer and prosperous country. So what are we going to do? Growing exports. You know, I gave that presentation, as I said, near the end of October, if I remember properly. I was in Miami at an IDB meeting when the PM gave his really grand overall long-term look at, and he called it aspire and pivot. Well, how are we going to do it? We're going to have to find ways to grow. Yes, we've fixed our fiscal stuff and we must keep it fixed, but we have to grow because otherwise we won't be able to pay our bills and we're going to go back to where we were. We cannot do that. So we're going to have to grow MSME. I start with that this morning because that's what we're about today. All those 420 companies in the MSME areas, I want to see a lot more going on the junior stock exchange. Why? For two reasons. It is better to own a big piece, maybe a big 2/3 of a big St. Elizabeth melon. That's where the best ones come from. Rather than a whole grape. You stop being interested in owning on your own little grape. Go own a big part of a big melon. That means you have to get other people in there. Get other people to put in money in your company. Get other people to put their brain power in your company. Get other people to put their physical well-being in your company. And you build companies that can compete not just in Jamaica, but in Trinidad, more and more going there, in the United States. We have companies, one of our biggest companies here, two of our biggest companies, have big companies in the United States. Grace and Jamaica Brothers Group. More than 50% of Jamaica Brothers Group income come not from Jamaica, but from the United States, where they own a lot of companies. I want to see a lot more Jamaican companies owning businesses in Dubai. I want to make sure you understand that unless we go and find new markets for products and services and new markets for investments to come into Jamaica, we're not going to be the rich country that we have to be. So we're looking at MSME, the road shows. The road shows were amazing. We had 4 last year. We spent over $56 million on those road shows. The IDB, one of our Jamaica's most magnanimous beneficiary lender, is the IDB, not some bank. IDB. IDB not only lend, they give grants. We got one of those grants for $294,000 US to help roadshow last year. We're getting other people to help us this year. IDB is back again as our co-sponsor. So we're happy to have them. Last year, we gave 12 companies $300,000 for winning. They have to go to a pitch like, the Lions Den, and PS organized who must judge a pitch. 12 of them won. 12 more are going to win. Last year, they won 3.6 million. This year, they're going to win 4.8 million because we changed the price from 3 to 400,000. Because you're all press, I don't expect you to clap, but I'll recognize what you have recognized. So the minor, the micro entities, we have a pitch for them as well. 10 of them going to win. Last year, they got 1.5 million. This year, we raise it because we're not just giving them 150,000. We're giving them 200,000. PS, go out and find the money. And I said, PS, if you need me to give a word, I will. She's a very resourceful woman. I'm very happy to have her as our PS. Manufacturing. We're going to have to grow in manufacturing. I've talked about MSME manufacturing. We have the productive input relief. And it's a really, really great program. You make sure that, I saw people, one company was importing a piece of machinery for $2.4 million US. One piece of machine. Wonderful. The productive input relief that they got, that means they didn't have to pay custom duties and fine and charges, was over $500,000 US on that purchase. The productive input relief run by the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, but collaborated and crafted with the collaboration of the Ministry of Finance, is a really wonderful program. That's a big piece of machine. If you're ordering 10 mixers to make the fruit juices that you're going to manufacture, you can get the productive relief. We have it on our website. We advertise it. I'm advertising again. If you're going to manufacture anything and you're going to import something on it, we will give you a productive input relief. In 2022-23, we gave $88.5 billion in relief. In 23-24, $78.5 billion. That's a whole heap of money. When you must go manufacture things, make things, and make sure you get that productive relief. So moving on, suspension of the common external tariff. We do that too for other people. We're working on that now for the ICE people because the 75% manufacture of ICE in Jamaica burned down, as you well know. So we're looking for that, and we get that productive relief for a lot of people. And in 2023, that was $210.4 billion for 62 companies. In 2024, it was for 78 companies of $199.2 billion. This government cares, and we're finding money. Remember, a very bright former prime minister said it takes cash to care. When you know him well, huh? Name is Edward Seaga. Well, we're going to find the cash for you in productive relief and in CET relief to make sure that businesses can grow. And we have to do a lot more because we have to grow a lot more. Suspension, the Jamaica International Financial Services Authority. Minister Williams talked about the relatively reduced taxes on trusts. Rather than 33, it's now 25 that we've codified or going to codify. But we have JIFSA, Jamaica International Financial Services Authority. We've just passed the segregated accounts through the lower house and through the upper house. I carried it in the Senate, which means that we're going to, you remember all those big numbers from Turks and Caicos and Cayman? What do you think they do? As I said, they don't even have Rockstone. Please don't quote me. I know the press will protect me. But what they do have are tremendous financial services companies. You know where many of them people who work in there come from?
Do you hear that? The pure panic of a cyber attack. The endless alerts of component failure and power loss. Can you hear it? Neither can we.
GIFSA is going to come out with a great educational program, but we're going to have partnership accounts here. That's very important for trust businesses. So we're going to have general partnership and segregated partnership to make sure that we have the tools that will make people come here rather than go other places. We want to make sure that they come to Jamaica, and we're going to make sure that we give them what they need so the legislation is being changed. Look for it. GIFSA will be coming out with it. And the last thing, one of the last things I want to say is challenge the private sector. Now, because me used to run NCB, me know where a lot of the money is in the country. When you have a lot of money, you don't lose it quickly. So me still know where the money there. More and more private sectors are investing in Jamaica. I saw recently where Cinco invested $11.3 billion and still investing. I know Jamaica Brothers Group, Grace, all of them investing. Campari. We have to work on something, Gillette, for Campari to sort out what they asked us yesterday. The minister from Italy was here and the issue came up, so we're going to look at it. But I want the private sector in Jamaica to realize that there are tremendous opportunities, not the same country that it was 10 years ago. Lots of people are making money the right way. We want more and more Jamaicans to invest. I want to tell you that we have 20 agencies in my ministry alone to work with you. You know many of them, JBDC, JAMPRO, the rest of them, to work with you. And we want you, Jamaican people with capital in the stock market, people in Trinidad with capital come bringing a lot of money in here. We need to follow them. We need to encourage more Trinidadians and everybody else to bring money in here, as I did with the Italian minister yesterday when the PSNI and my team met with him. We want investments coming from everywhere, but Jamaicans must lead, because we don't want to hear down the road that how Favel and Nigel and Aubin and Andrew Hones give away the country. When we beg all of you to come in here and invest and invest and invest, it's for Jamaica first. And then, of course, next time I'll tell you more details about the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority, Caymanas. We're meeting this evening, a very big meeting on that with Prof. Shirley and Mr. Alok Jan. And I'm going to be quite willing to take any of your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Hill. He always gives a different presentation than every other minister who comes. Minister, business minister, please stay up here. Naomi, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Minister. Let me just grab, and I think Mahiri, you had your hand up? Yes. All right, you do. Yes.
We need to see you.
No, come around here. That's right. There you go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, him from Nationwide.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, sir.
Good morning, everybody. My questions are to the Education Minister this morning.
Very good.
Yeah.
You can stay.
Okay, so 2 questions for Dr. Dana. Number 1 is about hair. So I've been writing news for, let's say, 2 years now. I feel like the hair length, the skirt length issue continues to be like a vicious cycle. You know, it keeps being brought up. It's a seasonal controversy, if anything.
It is here you're speaking about and not skirt, just for my information.
Yeah. No, but in terms of let's just say secondary and primary schools for now, to prevent this from being what seems to be the running gag that it is, do you think there's anything that can be done by the ministry, whether it's to put a fixed rule in place or to have a discussion that leads to leniency in some areas? What can be done to prevent this vicious cycle of grooming issues in school?
All right, thank you. You want to do one question and the other? Okay, all right. So the grooming policy. I figured one of you would ask me about grooming. And I have the grooming policy here with me.
Wow.
I figured one of you would have to ask me. It's a perennial issue in terms of grooming. And I know that when I go to schools, a lot of students stop me and ask me about it, and they point to my hair. And I am a proud Black woman who wears her hair natural. And I understand what hair means in our context. And I know this is broader than hair. But there are a couple of things we have to balance, right? We have to balance order, something that we struggle with as a country, and we have to ensure that order is maintained in our educational institutions. And we also understand that as young people, they want to express themselves in different ways. And, it may be in hair, in dress, in other things. But the key thing we know is that school is not a fashion runway, right? School is about a place of learning. And for us, our focus is on learning in our schools and ordered learning in our schools. And so we have a grooming policy. We actually have another one that has been drafted, updated based on, for example, one court case that we had. And that has been doing the rounds. It was circulated with the principals. It was circulated with the student council members. So the students have a voice with the churches. So everybody has been looking at this policy of grooming. And it's not an easy one, because I know as a young person, I thought the rules at school were too harsh. And I know a lot of young people will think that, rules can be harsh. But we have to make sure that the rules are fair. And we need to make sure that there is order in our schools. There's too much in order in our society. And our schools are very important for us to maintain order. But we understand that times change. Times change, and you have to look at things differently. And that's why we have the consultations ongoing. We have the new 2024 policy, which will become 2025 policy, which we're still getting feedback from the schools. And we will continue to dialogue and have the right approach. And it's right balance between order and getting our students to learn in school. We want them at school, and we want them to be learning in an orderly way. And we also want to ensure that we instill values around discipline and obviously, the hair issue or the grooming issue or just, the length of the skirt. Those are issues that for me are not the fundamental questions around learning. And we have to focus on learning while also dealing with our grooming policy. And I think we do have something and a well thought through approach, which is dialoguing with all of the players. Hopefully that helps you answer. I mean, there is no real, one answer for that question.
All right, thank you, Minister. And the second question would be, is there an update you can provide to us regarding the school safety policy?
All right, we do have a school safety policy in place, and we have the CEO here. I don't know if you want to speak to it, but I can just quickly say that we had a consultant that was working with us on the school safety policy. It is finalized. It's now in the round of review. So, usually for every policy that we do, we have to circulate it to a lot of different players. So we are in that process now. CEO, is there anything else you want to add? All right. So that's where we are, but that's very important too.
Thank you, Minister. Again, just reiterate the point of consultation with parents, especially with the grooming matter. Fashion fades, but really we have to have some order. All right. Kalisha says she has a few. Let's go to her.
Kalisha Williams again from Television Jamaica. So I have a few questions.
Sure.
First, for you, Minister Morris Dixon, and then for Minister Hill as well. So going back to the question that was asked earlier, can you give us an update in terms of what is happening at the McGraw High School in regards to the particular student? I saw a video with some allegations against the student circulating on social media about issues at the school, and then the child also saying that he was put out of school even after the first video was released. Can you say the type of intervention the ministry has been making at that school?
All right, the CEO is here. I'm going to ask her to do it, and I have asked for a report on the matter. It's obviously in the public domain, and there have been different reports that have been given to me. So you have the school saying, what happened, and then you have the student saying what happened. It's for us to know really what truly happened so that we can intervene in the right way. And I know when things are on social media, they can get sensationalized. Sometimes you hear a half truth. And so for us at the ministry, getting to the truth and intervening is important. And the CEO will tell you very quickly what we've been doing. And we've actually asked for written reports from the school and the principal.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, everyone. As Minister said, the consultations continue right as we speak. I know the principal is meeting with one of the parent on the student seen in the video. We have asked that all measures be put in place so that the students seen in the videos that they are not at all be at a disadvantage, that it becomes a learning experience for not just them, but for the other student population. As Minister says, school is really about learning. And from this, some learning must be received. And so the principal is meeting with the teams there, the Board of Governors, and so that the necessary steps be put in place to utilize all the psychosocial mechanisms that we have in place at our schools to ensure that the students receive the best output from all this.
Thank you. Minister Hill, I have about 3 questions for you. So first, in regards to, you've been mentioning a lot about how the need to grow manufacturing in the country. Can you say at least 3 strategies that you'll be taking as the minister to reduce the country's trade deficit? And you mentioned SMEs as well. Can you speak to the specific MSMEs that you believe the government should be focusing on or you will be focusing on? And also 2 weeks ago, you said that you'll be lobbying CARICOM to suspend the tariff for the for cheaper importation of ice. Can you give us an update on that as well? Thank you.
Sure. I might ask you for them again. So let me just start with the one on ice. Because we're part of CARICOM, we are signed a common external treaty, Shagaramas, as many of you know. We cannot then, once you sign that treaty, just abrogate duties on products that are made in the market. So we couldn't reduce the duty on ice. What we could do is remove the GCT on ice for a period of time, which was announced from your media house and the other ones. What we have done in the process, nor can we really wait again till the next meeting of the CARICOM ministers. So there's an arrangement in place where the secretariat of CARICOM can make an interim decision. We have, through the PS and the CTD and other of our technical people in the ministry, made a request for them to allow us, because of the emergency. And what is the emergency? A company that makes 75 or more % of the ice in Jamaica burned down, not because their business, they had a fire there that started there. The fire started at a warehouse, spread to their business, much like you see the fire flying across in California. And our hearts and prayers are out to those people. The same way it crossed the border and burnt down Pure Ice. And Pure Ice very quickly came to us and said, we need some relief. We gave them the GCT relief, and we're now asking for the CET relief, which the PS and the technical people tell me that we expected to get it in January, and she just says, we got it. So we now have it, and that will be, administered through the ministry to the people who apply. Go back to the second one, so I go in reverse. What's your second question?
So many questions in one. All right.
3 measures in which you'll be working to reduce Jamaica's trade deficit.
All right, and you talked about manufacturing in particular. Well, the first one, as you heard there, is to really encourage people to invest in Jamaica. We have been a trading nation. Jamaica was set up by the colonial powers to be a place that produced raw materials that would be sent to the mother country, as it was called then, be reproduced into much more expensive products, and some of it sent back to us and around the world. We were never really encouraged to manufacture stuff. We manufactured sugar, but that was the raw material for refined sugar and expensive sugar. So we know over a period of time, more people have gotten into manufacturing, but we have not had for a long time, probably since Robert Lightburn and Eddie Seaga, have we had any kind of focus on saying Jamaicans must invest in manufacturing and we will do what we can to help you find markets. So we're encouraging investment. We have some help through the Exim Bank, some help, substantial help through the PIR and the CIT and the CET, as I just mentioned. The ministry is doing that. But we're also finding additional markets. The traditional markets clearly for 61 years have made us rich. You keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. They say you're stupid. Well, we can't be stupid. We're too brighter people to continue to do that nonsense. So we have to expand the existing market. I want to see more products in New York, in Miami, in Atlanta, yes, in London and Toronto, but those are not the only markets in the world. We expand those and find new markets. We went to Colombia and Costa Rica, strange places. We don't go to those places. They speak Spanish, so what? So we bring, you know what? In Jampro, we have two very, very fluent Spanish speakers. One was born in Colombia, and another one is of Colombian or other parentage, and they are fluent. They travel with us. When we went to Cartagena and Bogota and elsewhere, they were there with us. And therefore, we can have the resources. Domrep sell a lot of stuff to us. They don't speak English much, except they're bilingual. So we have to get, and Minister Morris Dixon is right here, bilingual students is a part of the training. So we have to make sure, we need new markets. So we need new investment. We need Jamaicans to lead it, but I'm agnostic. If the money is clean and you want to invest in Jamaica, welcome. I'm saying it right now before everybody. We want investors in here. We want Jamaicans to lead. And Jamaican people who have money invest. And Jamaican people who can get money must invest. And then we're going to have the productivity push. We have to push productivity. We're not going to get rich because we invest more money. That's part of it. We're going to get rich because we could become much more efficient at doing what we do. And businesses must lead that, as well as the government through HEART, through e-government, and all those other areas that you know we're working on. Those are the ways you go about getting rich. But you also, and especially you in the press. I used to write for the Gleaner for many, many years. You in the press must make sure the education also takes place and the opportunities take place, not just the negative. Negative sell newspaper. Positive help us to be rich. Make a choice. Next question. No, there's one more. There's three.
The last question, the specific MSMEs that the government will be focusing on in terms of ensuring further economic growth.
I didn't want to miss that question because it brings in something that is germane to this government's approach. We don't believe, no, let's go to the positive. We believe in the marketplace making sure we grow. We don't, there's some things government should do and will have to do. There should be few, clearly, security, for instance. In our case, as a developing country, we need to invest a great deal in education, so we're doing that. There are other things that we must not, all we must do is set the playing field and then encourage and educate and get our press to work with us to educate and say this is the direction we're going. So we set the playing field. We want it to be even for everybody. Notice the taxes that we do. We want to make sure it's even across. In fact, when I was doing 1.5, and I was very much involved with Mr. Cruikshank from Minister of Finance at the time, and Minister Shaw, I had to make sure, because the IMF wanted to make sure that the field was level. So we couldn't just give 1.5 to people up to 3 million. We had to give 1.5 across the border. So all the owner still get the benefit from 1.5. Just want to state that as a matter of fact. So we want to make sure we do, when we do policies, it's equity. It makes sure we provide equity to everybody across the board, and therefore we won't be picking MSMEs. We're looking at sectors that clearly, food sector, there's some services sector. Services sector, the ICT area is growing very, very fast. We're encouraging it. JAMPRO is doing it. They're going to have an announcement. Incidentally, you're going to see a lot more from the ministries coming out as to what we're doing. So we want to make sure the policy is even, and in areas where we can give assistance through things like CET and other benefits through the ICT areas, we encourage it. We take trade missions. Somebody take me on that. He said, let me tell you something. When I started banks overseas for an American bank, I couldn't sit. The British used to sit in their banks and wait for the people to come. Well, we found that out. Americans don't do that. So we went out there, and they're in their office, and they're meeting with the managing director. The managing director no give no LC and no business to no bank. It's the chief accountant or the CFO. They never have CFO. CFO became big at that later on. It's the chief accountant. So you know what? I go in there. I had American Express Gold Card, and I'm in countries that they never had it. And I get approval to give the gold cards. You know whom we give it to first? The chief accountant and his wife. Them have picked in the United States, and at the time they wanted money transfer, give it to them. So we have to make sure that we are encouraging people to invest and to work. So is it Tanisha? Tell me the name again first. Kadisha. Please, that's the story. And we want to make sure everybody gets the story. We're not going to pick, we will assist.
Thank you, Minister. Business and Efficiency Ministry, right? So we do have, thank you so much to our media representatives. Minister, I know it's over an hour, in fact, an hour and 20 minutes that we've invited, but we have invited some of our stakeholders through the ministries that presented today. We have two that have some questions, so we'll just take two questions, one from each, and then we can wrap up right after. Sir, could you introduce yourself?
Good morning, Minister. I'm Trevor Hamilton.
Yeah, man, Trevor, I see you around here itching for about an hour. Go ahead.
Well, Minister, good morning, everyone.
Speak in the mic.
I'm here. I'm part of the.
Speak into the mic, Trevor.
I'm a member of the JMA, and also a leading investor in one of the emerging industries in Jamaica, which is the cannabis industry. So one question is, we haven't even had a chance, after many attempts, I call your office, and for me to be a major investor, picking up my phone, calling your office, I went through several assistants, whatever, and I cannot get your phone, I cannot get to speak.
Trevor, you've had my number for 10 years. What do you mean calling somebody?
Okay,
no,
Minister.
But tell somebody else that.
Okay,
you have our numbers.
I will personally get it today to prove if that's sincere. But anyway, Minister, I look forward to that. But I want you to have dialogue with that industry. The industry is projected to value $158 billion by 2020.
New year, new deals. Only with Pep Boys, buy 3, get the 4th tire free on select Cooper, Kumho.
With Sambucol.
SME. The thing about SME play a major role in economic growth and productivity. I've proven it throughout the Caribbean.
And employment.
Yes. So for example, in the Bahamas GDP is 6 times Jamaica. Okay, $33,000. But their SME,
GDP per capita.
yes, per capita. But they take a serious, they know that SMEs, you cannot have productivity with foreign direct investment without efficient SMEs. Because efficient SMEs are the ones that drive the value chain. Now, if you go online in the Bahamas, their tourism is twice larger than Jamaica. Now, in the Bahamas, which is 6 times our GDP per capita, the SMEs enjoy equal, if not better, policy than FDI. So you go to the Bahamas, for example, because logistics is so key to tourism. And I invite anybody here to pick up your phone, pretend you got off by Bahamas here, and dial for Uber and see what answer you get. Uber cannot establish in the Bahamas because it's the domestic sector is treated as a domestic sector for Bahamians and enjoy domestic policies. So we have to find a way. I'm not talking about protectionism, but we have to find a way to modernize SMEs and to give them equal policy. We don't put one set in a free zone and one set in an open zone. It doesn't make sense. So, Minister, when will you harmonize the policies for SMEs?
Thank you, Dr. Trevor Hamilton. Trevor have a PhD now, must be for 40 years. So you know what, Trev? And you have my number for so long. One of the things that when I go to the PSOJ and the JMA, you say you're a member of JMA. I've been minister now for 3 years. I haven't had a paper that comes to me that says this is the direction we'd like you to take legislation. There is no if it came, I would be right up there leading it, like I'm now leading GIFs and others. I want the private sector to say to this minister, this is what we would like to see you change. You have PhD, you have tax accountants, you have all kinds of business people here. Send a paper to me, and I've asked the leadership to say, send it to me, and I will take it forward. That's one point. Now, in the case of the Bahamas and Uber, every country has a different law. I would love to see what you would want to suggest for us to do. But we're working on it. I know Minister Vaz is working clearly on getting that matter settled. But we have other bigger issues to settle. You raise the cannabis issue, and you look at the global number and what that could do to our GDP. But you have not raised the fundamental germane issue. Cannabis is a Schedule I drug under a 1961, I believe, UN Charter that we're a member of the treaty. The treaty was signed in 85, I think, under the Michael Manley government. So when cannabis looked like it was going to open and all the hype happened, Canada invested tons of money. Them have ganja pack up. I went up there to Ottawa after all these issues happened. Them have tons of ganja pack up in there in warehouse because they overproduce. Now, people make the mistake in the United States. The United States, under the ICC, the Interstate Commercial Code, you can't sell a Schedule I drug across border. But Colorado is a big state. California is a big state, New York is a big state, and them all do them cannabis, and the banks within that state can bank them. We cannot bank a cannabis producer because it's a Schedule I drug. It comes under the federal government. If any one of our banks touch an account, the banks in the United States are obliged not to deal with them. If you don't have a correspondent banking arrangement in the United States, you're not a bank. You can't work. So we can't even send our cannabis in their airspace. That's what a Schedule I drug is. No, they were said, they were going to change the Schedule I law. It takes for the law to be changed, it takes about 38 states to pass it. I think they're down to 23. Maybe under a Democratic government, it would have been easier to pass. Maybe not so easy under the new government coming in. So you cannot just go ahead and say we're going to expand and grow. Otherwise, I'd be up here saying, let's do CNB. You can only do CNB so far. But the cannabis issue is a drug issue. It's the same. It's in the same group.
If you're 35 or older and still don't have life insurance, we're going to show you just how easy it is to apply for up to $1 million in coverage.
We can't cross that border so easily.
Minister, thank you so much. Let's take the final question, but thank you so much for that very frank and simplified version of explaining it when so many people ask that very question without understanding the genesis of why we really aren't moving as efficiently as we are. Yes.
All right, so Naomi, I know you said that this is the final question, but my president is here, Hamilton, so I'm going to yield to her so that she can ask the question.
I think you're a fine gentleman.
Thank you so much, Donovan. I appreciate it. Okay, Minister, so we acknowledge that the Minister of Finance has increased the capital threshold for junior stock exchange, which is excellent, and
really
we
excellent.
applaud that. What, though, is going to be put in place to encourage brokers to write smaller IPOs? Because, of course, it has to be profitable for them. So while we see that it is benefiting the medium and some of the small entities, the challenge still remains that many brokers may not see it as an attractive thing to write smaller IPOs. So what will be done to encourage them in that
I'm glad
direction?
you're the president where you are, because there's no rule that new, smaller, more efficient brokers can't happen. Many of when I trade many stocks overseas, I don't even go to a broker anymore. I go on my computer. So you must be innovative, and in the section that you are in the economy, you constantly have to innovate. So if the big guys don't want to deal with it, leave them alone. Go start your own. Make it completely digital. Here's my wonderful minister who is quite willing to help you to do that, and make sure, because if it's digital, it becomes very efficient and cost effective. You don't want to pay for those big buildings where those guys are in. I mean, I used to run one of those companies. They're expensive. Go start another one. Find a new group of young people who will start a brokerage company that will serve you. Next question. No, micro. We don't want to really go down that road right now. Make sure that works. I know Mrs. Street Forest is talking about it, but that's not going to help, because it's the same big brokers who you're going to have to deal with. Go find small brokers that are more efficient.
And the stock exchange will have its conference
Remember,
next week.
Mark, this is something I know. Okay, so that's
All
what
right.
my advice is.
Thank you, Minister. After an hour and a half with our stakeholders and, of course, members of the media, that's it for the questions.
So
Minister.
now I can't go to CB opening, which we are supposed to go. So
You can
please
go.
Understand when you don't see me there.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here. And before we close, I want to thank all of our guests who came, and also I have to acknowledge all of our private sector company heads who are here. And I know we have one student who's here who owns their own business too, which is really lovely to have you here. And we didn't acknowledge Antoinette Hamilton, who asked the last question, the head of the MSME Alliance.
I have one thing I need to say, Minister, if you'll allow me,
We
before
have
you
1 minute.
disagree.
Yeah.
Before you leave.
Yes. All right, you can go ahead, because I'm going to close out.
Very quick one. I spoke all about this, but I want you to know where you must go. On January 16, 2025, you must go to Twickenham Park Church of the Open Bible. We're a caring, loving government. So we start off the first one in the house of the Lord in Twickenham Park. Then the second one is February 20th. That's 4 days later. We take you to, guess where? Juicy Patty's headquarters. So we leave the house of the Lord to go and eat at Juicy Beef Patty's, and that's Empowerment Park in Clarendon Park. And then, of course, while we start to do the best at the beginning, we end with the second best in March 6th at where else? The St. Elizabeth Technical High School in Santa Cruz. So those are the 3 ones that we have planned for the moment. January 16th, Twickenham Park, January 20th, at Juicy Beef in Clarendon Park, and March 6th in the St. Elizabeth Technical High School. Please, we have been advertising it. Many come out, and I hope many of you are in the 12 who will win those special prizes and in the 10. Thank you so much, Minister
Thank you.
Morris Dixon.
Thank you. And that answers one of the questions that was there. How are we helping the MSME sector and the manufacturing sector? These road shows are really an important part of that, where we talk about the assistance that's available. As I close, I just want to remind Jamaicans that 9,000 individuals have already, more than 9,000, so let me get the right number for you. 343,000 Jamaicans benefited from the reverse income tax credit, but we know that there are around 9,000 persons whose applications were rejected because of invalid banking or tax information. Now we want you to resubmit your applications so that you can take advantage of that $20,000. 343,000 Jamaicans have already benefited from it. And so there is a new deadline of Friday, January 31 for you to resubmit your applications. And so please do so. We want you to be one of those who gets access to that reverse income tax credit of $20,000. So thank you again for being here. And as usual, God bless Jamaica, land we love. See you next week.